In the heart of a dense, shadowy forest, where moonlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, there lurked a tale whispered among locals for generations. They spoke of a creature that haunted these woods, a beast with eyes that glowed like burning embers and a howl that chilled the bravest of souls. According to legend, the werewolf was once a hunter who ventured too deeply into forbidden lands. One fateful night under a full moon, he encountered a pack of wolves that were unlike any other, larger, darker, and unnaturally cunning. They surrounded him, their breaths hot and misty in the cold night air. The leader, a massive wolf with fur as black as midnight, approached the hunter. Instead of attacking, it gazed into his eyes with an intelligence that unnerved him. The hunter, feeling both fear and fascination, made a fatal mistake. He reached out to touch the wolf's fur. In that instant, the hunter's fate was sealed. The wolf's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and a searing pain shot through the hunter's hand. The pack closed in, and in a blur of fur and teeth, they tore him apart. But death did not come swiftly. The hunter awoke the next morning, naked and covered in blood, surrounded by the remnants of his torn clothes. He staggered to his feet, feeling stronger than ever but also strangely different. As days passed, he found his senses sharpened, his strength increased, and an insatiable hunger gnawed at him. Under the light of the next full moon, the hunter transformed into a creature he could barely recognize, a towering wolf man with muscles rippling beneath fur, claws sharp as daggers, and a hunger that could only be sated by flesh. Now, the werewolf roamed the forest, a cursed soul forever bound to the cycle of the moon. Villagers whispered of disappearances, of livestock found torn apart, and of eerie howls that echoed through the night. Yet amidst the terror, some believed there was a glimmer of humanity left in the beast's eyes, a spark of the hunter still fighting against the primal urges that consumed him. As the moon waxes and wanes, the tale of the werewolf continues to unfold, leaving those who dare to enter the forest to wonder, is the creature merely a monster of legend? Or is there something more tragic and human lurking within its haunted gaze? One brisk autumn evening, a small group of villagers, armed with torches and silver-tipped weapons, gathered at the edge of the forest. Among them was Lena, the blacksmith's daughter, whose brother had gone missing a fortnight ago. Determined to find him, she steeled her resolve and joined the hunt, her heart pounding with both fear and hope. The villagers ventured into the forest, their torches casting flickering shadows on the gnarled trees. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. As they moved deeper, an uneasy silence settled over the group. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves, set their nerves on edge. Hours passed with no sign of the beast or Lena's brother. Just as the villagers began to lose hope, a chilling howl pierced the night. It was close to close. The werewolf was watching them. Panic rippled through the group, but Lena stood her ground, clutching her silver-tipped spear tightly. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, followed by a massive, shadowy figure. The werewolf emerged, its fur bristling, fangs bared, and eyes locked onto the intruders. The villagers attacked, but the beast was swift and powerful. It knocked them aside with ease, its claws slashing through flesh and bone. Lena fought bravely, her spear striking the werewolf's flank. The beast howled in pain and fury, turning its attention to her. In that moment, Lena saw something in its eyes, a flicker of recognition, a glimmer of humanity. She hesitated, and the werewolf lunged. Before it could strike, a silver arrow flew through the air, embedding itself in the creature's shoulder. The werewolf recoiled, snarling, and retreated into the forest. Lena turned to see a figure emerge from the shadows, bow in hand. It was an old woman, her hair silver as the arrow she had fired. "Come with me," the woman said, her voice firm but kind. "We don't have much time." Lena followed the woman to a hidden cave, where a fire flickered warmly. As they settled around the fire, the woman introduced herself as Alara, a healer and the last of an ancient line of guardians tasked with protecting the forest and its secrets. "The werewolf you seek is not just a monster," Alara explained. "He was once a man, cursed by dark magic. There is a way to break the curse, but it is dangerous and requires great sacrifice." Lena listened intently as Alara detailed the steps to break the curse. They needed a rare herb that only bloomed under the light of a blood moon, which was due to rise in 3 nights. They also needed the blood of a willing family member, freely given, to bind the spell. Determined to save her brother and the hunter trapped within the werewolf, Lena agreed to the perilous quest. She and Alara set out to find the herb, braving treacherous terrain and encountering creatures of the night. As they journeyed, Lena learned more about the hunter's tragic past and the dark forces that had cursed him. On the eve of the blood moon, Lena and Alara returned to the cave with the herb. They prepared the ritual, a complex and ancient incantation that would summon the spirits of the forest to aid them. Lena's heart raced as she pricked her finger, letting her blood drip onto the herb. The blood moon rose, casting an eerie red glow over the forest. The werewolf appeared at the cave's entrance, drawn by the power of the ritual. It snarled and approached, but Lena stood firm, holding the herb aloft. As the incantation reached its climax, the werewolf howled in agony. Its form began to shift and change, fur receding, claws retracting. Before Lena's eyes, the beast transformed into a man, the hunter, his eyes filled with sorrow and relief. But before they could celebrate, a dark shadow loomed over them. The leader of the cursed Wolf pack, the one who had started it all, appeared, furious and vengeful. The battle was far from over, and the true source of the curse had yet to be confronted. The story's climax and resolution hung in the balance, as Lena, Alara, and the hunter prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. The air grew cold as the leader of the cursed Wolf pack stepped into the cave, its eyes glowing with malice. It was a fearsome creature, larger and more powerful than the werewolf had been, with an aura of darkness that seemed to suck the warmth from the room. Lena, Alara, and the newly transformed hunter stood their ground, knowing that this battle would determine their fate. Alara chanted an ancient spell, her voice echoing through the cave. The flames of the fire blazed higher, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The leader of the pack snarled, baring its teeth, and lunged at them. The hunter, though weak from the transformation, picked up a silver-tipped sword that Alara had prepared and met the beast head-on. The clash was violent and desperate. The hunter fought with the strength and skill of a man who had been a predator for too long. Lena, driven by the need to save her brother and end the terror, joined the fray with her spear. Alara, meanwhile, continued her incantations, drawing upon the ancient magic of the forest to aid them. Despite their courage, the leader of the pack was formidable. It seemed to anticipate their every move, dodging their attacks with unnatural speed. The hunter took a powerful blow that sent him crashing into the cave wall, and Lena barely managed to avoid a swipe from the beast's deadly claws. As the battle raged, Alara realized that brute force alone would not be enough to defeat the creature. She needed to tap into the deeper magic of the forest, a power that required great risk. She instructed Lena and the hunter to hold the beast at bay while she prepared a final, desperate spell. Lena and the hunter fought with renewed determination, buying Alara the time she needed. Alara closed her eyes and began to chant, her voice rising and falling in a haunting melody. The cave seemed to tremble with the power she summoned, the very air crackling with energy. Just as the leader of the pack knocked Lena to the ground and prepared to deliver a fatal blow, Alara's spell reached its peak. She thrust her hands forward, and a burst of brilliant light exploded from her palms, enveloping the beast. The creature howled in agony as the light seared through its dark form, tearing at the very essence of its being. The light grew brighter, blinding Lena and the hunter. When it finally faded, the leader of the pack lay motionless on the cave floor, its body dissolving into ash. The air was still, and a profound silence fell over the cave. Lena and the hunter helped each other to their feet, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Alara, exhausted but triumphant, approached them. "The curse is broken," she said, her voice weak but filled with relief. "But the forest will never be the same." As they emerged from the cave, the first light of dawn began to break through the trees. The forest, once dark and menacing, now seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Birds began to sing, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The villagers, who had fled in terror during the battle, returned cautiously. They were astounded to see the hunter, a man they had long thought lost to the curse, standing with Lena and Alara. There was joy and celebration, but also questions and uncertainty. Lena found her brother, weak but alive, in a hidden part of the cave. He had been held captive by the pack, but now, with the curse broken, he was free. Tears of relief streamed down her face as she embraced him, vowing never to let him out of her sight again. Despite their victory, the forest held many secrets. Alara revealed that the curse was only a part of a larger, more sinister plot. Dark forces had been at work, and the leader of the pack was merely a pawn. There were whispers of an ancient coven of witches, exiled centuries ago, who had sought to harness the power of the forest for their own dark purposes. The curse had been their creation, a means to sow fear and chaos. Alara, Lena, and the hunter knew that their journey was far from over. The coven still lurked in the shadows, and their malevolent influence could rise again. The forest, now freed from the werewolf's terror, still bore the scars of their dark magic. Over the following days, Lena and her brother recovered from their ordeal. The villagers, grateful for the end of the werewolf's reign of terror, honored Lena, Alara, and the hunter as heroes. Yet, amid the celebrations, Lena could not shake the feeling of unfinished business. She knew that the coven needed to be confronted to ensure lasting peace. One evening, as the village gathered for a feast, Alara pulled Lena and the hunter aside. "I have been researching the old texts," she said, her expression grave. "The coven's stronghold is hidden deep within the forest, in a place where the veil between our world and the spirit realm is thin. We must find it and put an end to their dark practices." The hunter, whose name was revealed to be Marcus, nodded. "I've seen the darkness they can bring. We can't let them continue." "I'm with you." Lena, her resolve hardened by the recent events, agreed. "We have to finish what we started. For my brother, for the village, and for the forest." Alara gathered the necessary supplies and prepared powerful talismans to protect them on their journey. The villagers, though fearful, offered their support, providing provisions and weapons. As the moon began to wax once more, the trio set out into the forest, determined to find the coven's stronghold. Their journey was fraught with danger. The forest, though seemingly peaceful, was filled with hidden threats. They encountered enchanted traps, creatures twisted by dark magic, and spectral visions designed to lead them astray. Each challenge tested their strength and resolve, but their bond grew stronger with each trial. One night, as they rested by a small, enchanted spring that Alara had found, Marcus shared more of his story. "I was a hunter who came to this forest in search of game, but I found something much darker. The pack's leader was once a man, like me. He fell victim to the coven's curse and became their enforcer. I fear that others may have suffered the same fate." Alara listened intently, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "The coven preys on the weak and the lost, twisting them to their will. We must be prepared for anything when we face them." Lena, staring into the flames, felt a chill run down her spine. "We have to find a way to break their hold over the forest once and for all." The following day, they discovered an ancient stone circle, overgrown with vines and moss. Alara recognized it from her studies. It was a gateway to the spirit realm. The air around it hummed with power, and the temperature dropped noticeably as they approached. "This is it," Alara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The coven's stronghold lies beyond this gateway. Once we cross, there will be no turning back." With steely determination, the trio stepped into the circle. A blinding light enveloped them, and they felt themselves being pulled into another realm. When the light faded, they found themselves standing in a dark, twisted version of the forest. The trees here were gnarled and lifeless, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. In the distance, a foreboding structure loomed, the coven's stronghold. It was a massive, ancient fortress, its walls etched with sinister runes that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. The ground beneath it was scorched and barren, a stark contrast to the vibrant forest they had left behind. Alara, Lena, and Marcus steeled themselves and approached the stronghold. As they drew nearer, the ground began to tremble, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the air. "Who dares to trespass in our domain?" The voice boomed, dripping with malice. Alara stepped forward, her staff glowing with a protective light. We are here to end your reign of terror. The forest will no longer suffer under your dark magic." Laughter, cold and cruel, echoed from the fortress. "Fools, you are but insects to us. Your journey ends here." The gates of the fortress swung open, and a horde of shadowy figures emerged. They were the Coven's enforcers, twisted beings of darkness and malice. The final battle had begun, and the fate of the forest hung in the balance. With a battle cry, Lena, Alara, and Marcus charged forward, ready to confront the Coven and end their dark reign once and for all. The air crackled with the clash of magic and steel, and the forest held its breath, waiting for the outcome of this epic confrontation. The clash of steel and the crackle of magic filled the air as Lena, Alara, and Marcus faced the Coven's enforcers. The dark figures moved with unnatural speed and ferocity, but the trio fought with unyielding determination. Marcus swung his silver-tipped sword with precision, Alara wielded her staff with arcane power, and Lena's spear struck true against their shadowy foes. As the battle raged, Alara noticed a central figure among the enforcers, a witch whose aura radiated immense power. She was the Coven's leader, her eyes glowing with a sinister light. Realizing that defeating her was key to breaking the Coven's hold, Alara called out to her companions, "Focus on the leader. We must take her down to end this." Marcus and Lena nodded, understanding the gravity of their task. They fought their way through the throng of enforcers, carving a path toward the Coven leader. The witch chanted incantations, sending bolts of dark energy at them, but Alara countered with her own spells, creating shields of light to protect them. As they closed in, the witch summoned a whirlwind of dark magic, trying to push them back. Lena, undeterred, threw her spear with all her might. The silver-tipped weapon pierced through the dark vortex, striking the witch in the chest. She screamed in agony, her magic faltering. Seizing the opportunity, Marcus lunged forward, delivering a decisive blow with his sword. The witch's dark energy dissipated, and she collapsed to the ground. With her fall, the remaining enforcers vanished into shadows, their forms disintegrating into the air. The fortress trembled, and the malevolent energy that had permeated the area began to dissipate. The oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by a soothing glow that spread through the twisted realm. The once dead trees began to show signs of life, and the air grew warmer. Alara, Lena, and Marcus stood together, their breaths heavy but victorious. "It's over," Alara said, her voice filled with relief. "The Coven's power is broken." As they watched, the fortress crumbled, its dark magic unraveling. The stone circle that had brought them here began to glow, signaling their passage back to the mortal realm. Hand in hand, they stepped into the light, leaving the twisted forest behind. They emerged back in their own forest, where dawn was breaking. The villagers, who had anxiously awaited their return, cheered and rushed to greet them. Lena's brother, now fully recovered, ran to embrace her, tears of joy in his eyes. The village celebrated their heroes, honoring their bravery and sacrifice. Alara, Lena, and Marcus were hailed as saviors, their names destined to be remembered in tales for generations. The forest, once a place of fear, was now a symbol of resilience and hope. In the days that followed, the forest continued to heal. The animals returned, and the trees grew stronger and greener. Alara, Lena, and Marcus often walked through the woods, ensuring that the balance was maintained and that no remnants of the Coven's dark magic remained. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of color, Lena, Alara, and Marcus stood at the edge of the forest, reflecting on their journey. "We did it," Lena said softly, a smile on her face. "We truly brought peace back to the forest." Alara nodded. "The darkness is gone, but we must remain vigilant. The forest will always need its guardians." Marcus placed a hand on their shoulders. "Together, we can protect this place and ensure that no darkness ever threatens it again." As they stood there, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it the promise of a bright future. The forest, now a sanctuary of light and life, was safe once more, thanks to the courage and unity of its protectors. And so, the tale of the werewolf and the Coven came to a close, with peace restored and the promise of many good days ahead.